What's up, everybody? Welcome into a nut. Jesus Christ! Everyone's got. Hey, I got snacks too. We'll just do the snack thing if you want. Everybody have snacks on the show is what we're doing tonight. What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Sack City Podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by my best friend in the whole entire world, Aaron the Mukesiah. Mukes. Below us, we have the smoothest voice in sports casting, Dylan Kearns. It is a beautiful June 8th evening here in the city. Episode 39 about to kick off. We are dipping our toes back in the fantasy football water. Dylan and AJ had fun with it on Monday. We're gonna get into that later on in the show and discuss what they talked about. But we're breaking down even more fantasy football content and talking and addressing the burning questions heading into this fantasy football season amongst the top players in the league. There's only one person that I can go and start this show off with and ask them how they're doing, and it's the gummy bear himself up there.
Aww.
Aaron, how goes it?
I'm drowning my sorrows. This is how I heal by eating gummy bears. I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but I'm just gonna say I'm in a shithole. I'll say it. I'm in a shithole. I don't know where I'm at. I'm in Albany, Georgia. I have no friends. All I have is my gummy bears, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Chewy, or whatever their names are. And whoa. I just met a new friend. It's a little rodent, I think, running on the carpet.
I don't know if you might be a little aged for this one, but this reference is SpongeBob reference. But when he was alone in his pineapple and he had his thumb, he had his finger friends, and then he also had the napkin, a penny, and a chip as his friends. That could be what you do. I mean,
listen. I'm thankful for my new venture. However, my place is not going to be ready until the 24th, and I'm staying in a place. Yeah, I'm staying in a place that but I'm thankful to be here. They at least have good internet connection so far. I think AJ might want to try coming here. I'm just saying. At least so far, I haven't been disconnected.
Yeah, somehow, some way, you still have better internet than AJ, who is at home doing his. Yeah. He is not here tonight. We wish him the best. Nothing is wrong. He's just not here. But we have a great show. We're going to get into fantasy talk. And Dylan, you and AJ had some very, very interesting takes on your top 10 finishers for the upcoming season. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But our lead story this evening has a lot to do with these players missing OTAs, starting off with Lamar Jackson, who enters his final season under contract with the Baltimore Ravens. He missed voluntary OTAs. The Ravens' actual mandatory OTAs have not kicked off, and head coach John Harbaugh actually expects him to show up to camp. So we might not be talking about Lamar at all. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, we don't know what to make of him. He had surgery to remove a screw from his foot back in February. He has missed mandatory OTAs, and it's an unexcused absence. So we'll see what happens with DK. Allen Lazard, potentially wide receiver number 1 in Green Bay, also missing camp. He is a restricted free agent set to make $4 million to the Packers. Last but certainly not least, Aaron's Cowboys, Dalton Schultz missing the remainder of voluntary workouts because he wants to get paid. He is signed under the franchise tag already. His quarterback, though, expects him to be there. Dak has all the confidence in the world that his tight end is going to show up for camp. All these players missing camp or not showing up or showing up late or whatever, I want to know from you guys, how big of a deal is this actually for these players not to be showing up to mandatory minicamps or voluntary minicamps? Is it more so that the media is just trying to make stories out of this? Or, Aaron, do you think there's a problem with these players missing mandatory OTAs?
Well, when you talk about mandatory OTAs, absolutely. Because usually if a player is going to sit out mandatory OTAs, they then are forfeiting some sort of dollars in the case of Dalton Schultz. And we all know that no matter what is going on in a contract situation with the player, they're not trying to forfeit any money. And when you see a guy like Dalton Schultz decide, who did sign his franchise tender back a few months back, decide to go ahead and say, you know what, I'll miss some time of minicamp and perhaps be fined. I think that speaks volumes to where his head's at. Maybe the talks aren't going so well with the front office. Maybe he needs, he's wanting more, or the front office is just not going, kind of caving into his demands. I think it's very, very important for those stories to be talked about. The ones that are voluntary, or the ones that are like voluntary workouts, I don't read so much into those. Even guys like Lamar Jackson, who have been with the team for a long time, who we know is getting ready to get paid $40 million. He's their franchise, who has perhaps a little bit more injury risk than some other people because of the position he plays, because of the size in which he plays that position. I think I tend to worry less about those guys. But there's definitely something to be said when guys are missing time on the football field. You should be there. You should get your chemistry, especially if you're a wide receiver. DK Metcalf, for injury reasons, he has a new quarterback. You want to create those connections. And it's important to be there because they don't have much time. And we're about a month and a half, a little bit, month and a half away from training camps opening up. So I do believe there is a little bit important things there to kind of be mindful of.
Yeah, I think with the Lamar thing, I think if you were to put a title on who is the most interesting name that hasn't shown up or that is rumored to not show up, it has to be Lamar Jackson, obviously, with him being in his final year with the Baltimore Ravens under contract and a massive payday on the horizon. I think he obviously could be titled as the biggest name not to show up, but Harbaugh actually said he is not worried at all. He said, quote, "I fully expect him to come back in great shape." That's what he talks about. I'm sure he's throwing. I'm sure he's doing a good job. Harbaugh, so with all these guys that are not showing up, it really seems like no one is worried about them actually continuing to hold out. The only one, though, might be DK Metcalf because it was an unexcused absence, and Pete Carroll refused to answer any questions regarding the situation. So we don't know if this is DK rehabbing his foot or if this is him saying, "I want the bag."
Yeah, maybe DK does want the bag. Or not maybe, he does. He wants the bag, right? This is one of the best wide receivers in the league, a physical specimen. And now his numbers could potentially drop off going from Russell Wilson to Drew Lock. He wants to get paid now. And I understand why he wants to potentially hold out and see what the contract situation looks like heading into the season. So that's a big name right there. One of the best wide receivers in the league who's not at training camp. And maybe it is the foot thing, and that could potentially get around. But the unexcused definitely raises an eyebrow for me when you look at DK Metcalf, because, I mean, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. And if he's not there, it could be problems in Seattle.
And with your new, maybe not new quarterback, if Geno Smith is the guy, but you also want to get start building this chemistry with whatever quarterback ends up stepping in with the Seattle Seahawks. Dalton Schultz, though, Aaron, what's your concern level with the Dalton Schultz missing possibly holding out?
To be quite frank, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but I think it would be overhyped. Dalton Schultz has been good, but he's not some elite tight end. By no means is he a Travis Kelsey. I think there are other guys that can come in and do what Dalton Schultz does. Him and Dak have a good rapport, but I think he'll end up being there. But sleeper name out there, we might talk about him in fantasy. Jake Ferguson was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, and I've been pretty high on him in this offseason as far as my fantasy rankings. It might be a guy that they come in, give him some opportunities in OTAs. Maybe he stands out, and then all of a sudden they're like, maybe we don't have to pay Dalton Schultz. We keep him on the franchise tag. If he chooses not to play, that's on him. And then they let him walk after the year. So who knows with that, but I wouldn't get so concerned about a tight end of Dalton Schultz's stature.
Yeah. Oof. And the sleeper candidate, Jake Ferguson, the rookie for the Dallas Cowboys, might sneak into some dynasty conversations. I want to let everyone know on Friday, and this might come as a surprise to you gentlemen, but on Friday we will be doing our first mock draft, our first fantasy mock draft, but it's going to be a dynasty startup mock draft. So we are going to be looking at it from the perspective of a dynasty startup team or teams. I've yet to determine if it's going to be all of us playing against each other or just one team. It might be just one team, so we can really get into and dive into the players that are available. But you're not going to want to miss Friday's Fun and Games Friday show live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But Dylan, you and AJ on Monday talked about your top 10 finishers potentially for the 2022 season. Your list specifically looked like this. We're not gonna bury AJ too much on the show because he's not here to defend himself.
I'm gonna destroy him.
We're gonna look at your list first, though. Christian McCaffrey at number 1, Jonathan Taylor at number 2, Nick Chubb follows him up at number 3. The interesting name I want to talk about now to start off with, and I don't know if Aaron, you want to dive into his list more so than AJ's list, but I want to go into number 8 on your list in Cooper Kupp, who just received a massive payday as we were about to go live on the show. We didn't have it in our top stories. It happened right as we were getting everything going, but he got an $80 million extension, including $75 million guaranteed over the next 3 years. You have it number 8. Are you confident that we'll see the same or similar Cooper Kupp value like we saw in 2021?
No, and it's not because that was a crazy year last year, right? I mean, every year one athlete has an outlier year. Whether it's Calvin Johnson with his 1900, whatever that year that he went stupid, he was still a great receiver in the league. And I mean, Cooper Kupp, this year I think was an outlier for him. Yes, everything worked well. He had Matthew Stafford. This is a guy who's battled injuries throughout his career. He finally stayed healthy last year. What are you saying? What are you saying here, kid?
Stop. This is what we're going to get into. We're going to get hot and heavy right now with the show because you did this on Monday's show. We were watching it together. Aaron pointed it out. You have this, and we'll either pull the curtain back or whatever. You have this skill of yours that
it's not a skill. It's a tendency.
You have a tendency of yours that you will put a player high or say something good about a player, but then tear them back down. You have him at number 8. That's not bad for Cooper Kupp. If Cooper Kupp finishes as the 8, if he finishes in the top 10 again, that's good. So what I'm trying to find out from you is why you think he's going to be able to do this again, because
so you were saying why was he 8?
He's not in my top 10. If I were to have been on that show with you guys on Monday, he would have not been in my top 10. He may be in the top 20. I know you guys talked about Davante Adams, who I think Davante Adams. I'd have Davante Adams in my top 10 over Cooper Kupp, but that's beside the point.
No, it's not. That's not beside the point. It's not beside the point. Why the hell is Adams in there and not Kupp?
You want me to tell you why? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Cooper Kupp has had in his career 2 good seasons where he's finished in the top 10 at the position. Not top 10 overall, top 10 at the position. Davante Adams has had 6. That's why. That's the difference.
You can't apply that same logic there, Aaron.
You can't apply the same logic because Davante Adams is still a number 1 receiver. He's still getting thrown the ball to by a very dependable quarterback with not really many other weapons on the team. You could talk about Hunter
Shut up. Hunter Renfrow had a great year last year. Darren Waller's the beast.
Because he was the only one there. So now are we saying that Hunter Renfrow's a number 1 receiver? Because he was the only guy. Because he was the only guy that Derek Carr had to throw to. Darren Waller actually didn't have a great year last year. Davante Adams is clearly the number 1 receiver in the NFL and has been for the past 5 to 6 seasons.
Weapons is just asinine.
I didn't say they aren't weapons. I said we're talking about the level of weapons. And Cooper Kupp had 191 targets last year.
Yeah, that's not happening
insane.
again. That's
you know what I think?
That's the point. Is it's not going to happen again. He had his best year of his career, and it was an amazing year. But there is, no matter what, he's going to regress to the means.
So let me slide in here and ask you a question, Aaron, real quick, with maybe the X's and O's sides of things. With Cooper Kupp and what he did this season, we obviously talked about how it wasn't new that the slot wide receiver position was doing good, but it was new that a slot wide receiver was just as dominant as what Cooper Kupp was last season. I see going into 2022, a lot of teams are going to now they have the blueprints on Cooper Kupp. They know what Cooper Kupp does. They know what the Rams want to do with Cooper Kupp in the slot. I think more teams are going to be dialing in on Cooper Kupp. And I know, and I see Bailey brought it up in the chat about Robert Woods not being there and whether or not you trust Allen Robinson. I don't think Allen Robinson has done anything to not. I know he had that bad year last year with Justin Fields and that mess of an offense, but I personally don't think Allen Robinson has done anything to where you can't trust him as a wide receiver 2 in that offense and as another weapon for Matthew Stafford there to take away from Cooper Kupp, which with the combination of teams now scheming for Cooper Kupp and the addition of Allen Robinson, I don't see a top 10 year there. I just don't.
I don't think the addition of Allen Robinson really changes anything.
Yeah.
I think Robert Woods was adequate enough. Then after Robert Woods went down, Odell Beckham was there, who was good enough to be considered that number 2 guy. But to your point, it is about the scheme. It's about teams now saying, you know what? We let Cooper Kupp beat us last year because we were saying that's what we're going to give up. We don't want him to beat us outside. We don't want to give up certain things. We'll give him the middle of the field. But he did. He beat him. So now you say as a defensive coordinator, I'm going to do everything I can to take that away, and you're going to have to beat us another way. It's not saying that Cooper Kupp's going to get stopped. It's saying that Cooper Kupp's going to have to find other ways to make his game work, and in doing that, it's going to take a little bit of his targets away. They're going to go to Allen Robinson. They're going to go to Van Jefferson. They're going to go to Tyler Higbee. Cam Akers is back fully. They get some work out of the backfield, and I think overall, the Rams are a complete football team, so that's why his workload's going to come down. It's not that Cooper Kupp isn't good. It's just that he is not that guy that you say one-on-one on the outside, I can throw him the ball when he's covered. They don't do that. He's a guy who gets into space, and when he's open, you throw him the ball. So I think that's the difference between him and a Davante Adams. When Derek, he's just going to throw it to Davante Adams, and he'll make the catches. That's what's going to happen. And we talk about chemistry all the time. The reason Cooper Kupp was so good last year is because when he came in, the first person he started, or when Stafford came in, they had the chemistry. They're the ones that were working together. They got on the same page, and they developed that chemistry. Derek Carr and Davante Adams have had chemistry their entire life. They're like best friends. And that stuff matters in many aspects. Vinny likes to point to it, but I can tell you for a fact, as somebody who played the receiver position, it matters between a quarterback and a wide receiver. It absolutely does. The timing, knowing where to be, trusting that guy, it matters. And I don't think that's going to change from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. The skill might change a little bit. There's going to be throws that Derek Carr can't make that Aaron Rodgers could, but I think that chemistry will still be there. Cooper Kupp should be the 3rd wide receiver off the board, the 3rd in fantasy, and it's outside the top 10.
You played wide receiver?
Yes, I played wide receiver.
So that's Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, and then Cooper Kupp?
It's what?
Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, not in no particular order for those two, but Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. That's
Cooper
your
Kupp,
first
yes.
3 off the board.
Yes.
And do you think Cooper Kupp returns the value of that 3rd wide receiver off the board?
Yeah, if you're not dumb enough to take him with that number, 9 or 10 pick.
So what's your line for Cooper? Let me ask.
He's not. Put it this way: Cooper Kupp will not be available after first rounds because everybody's going to take Cooper Kupp in the first round. So in that case, he will not return the value of where you're going to draft him.
Okay.
This might be stupid. Michael Thomas, when Michael Thomas was not this year, but what I'm saying, when Michael Thomas had his big year, he was a 1st round guy. Or do you think that's a similar drop off that Kupp's going to have?
I think Michael Thomas' situation was a little bit different when you start to account injuries and, the talent for Michael Thomas was there. But again, very similar style player. These guys aren't game-breaking players. So Cooper Kupp's game of 7 catches, 80 yards, that's cool. But when Davante Adams gets 7 catches, it's 7 catches, 120, and 2 touchdowns. So those games are going to be harder to come by for Cooper Kupp than they are those big-name wide receivers like a Justin Jefferson and a Davante Adams.
So let's move on now to, and I will have this last topic of what you guys discussed on Monday. Aaron, you did have some problems, maybe not necessarily with what AJ's lists look like, but with what AJ said on Monday's show. I'm giving you the chance. We've got 10 minutes before we got to move on. The floor is yours, sir, to just have at it.
It's not just AJ's list. There's part of AJ's list, part of Dylan's list. I wanted to address the Dalvin Cook thing. The debate between the Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey, which I was all on board with Dylan, talking about Christian McCaffrey bouncing back. I hate judging running backs and just in injuries. Oh, they got injured in the last couple of years. They're not as good. Christian McCaffrey was the most dominant fantasy football player we had really ever seen at the position when he played full seasons. And he's shown he can do that. So I trust that. AJ brought up a point about Dalvin Cook and the work out of the backfield. And it was just flat out wrong. He talked about him seeing 6 to 7 targets a game. He's only seen more than 6 or more targets in 4 games over the last 2 years. It's not a lot. He's not out there catching 5-6 balls like Christian McCaffrey. The skill sets aren't close. Christian McCaffrey is a dynamic playmaker out of the backfield and in the receiving game, which Dalvin Cook is not. Dalvin Cook should be in the top 10. He has him in the top 10. But it's not that debate between Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey just went way too far. The second thing I want to just talk about both of them were the fact that Alvin Kamara is not on this list is an absolute tragedy. Bring the list up. It's a tragedy. We don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. And what we do is we say, yeah, but you're assuming he's suspended. Like nothing has been said about him being suspended. You can sit there and say
push back. It was
a
draft.
Nothing might not even happen. You don't even know that anything's going to happen. There's been nothing. There hasn't been any evidence that's been put out there that said he's going to get suspended. Nothing's about likely to be suspended. We're just assuming he's going to get suspended. This thing might get pushed back to 2023. To not have Alvin Kamara not ranked in the top 10, which he has never finished outside of the top 10 at his own position. He's always been up there, is an absolute tragedy. I don't believe you can have a top 10 list and not have Alvin Kamara on that list.
I'm sorry, producer. I'm not defending Dalvin. Kamara, to your, I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it with Kamara. Like
based on what? Based on what?
Okay, it's a.
Whoa. You're not defending Dalvin. I'm not asking you to defend Dalvin. You don't have him on your top 10. And Aaron is very passionate about having him in your top 10. No, you don't have him. So that's why you have to defend your Dalvin Cook, because you said he's at, like 15? On Monday show?
Yeah, you are a clown for not having Dalvin Cook in the top 10.
He's not in the top 10. He's not a top 10 running back.
So that's why I was saying defend Dalvin Cook, because you sound like a clown.
Now. Yeah, you're a clown. I'm going in. See ya. Looking right here, Dalvin Cook. I mean, come on. This guy's never finished the season healthy, right? That's a big freaking factor.
Oh my God.
It's the change.
That is the dumbest narrative ever.
How? McCaffrey, I understand, because I've seen him play 16 games. Dalvin Cook has not finished a season healthy. Every single year he misses games.
Can I tell you guys this? No running back outside of Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry for your plays 16 games. That is not a thing in the NFL anymore. So you got to get that out of your head. Dalvin Cook is consistently 13, 14, 15 games. It's not like he's out there missing 8 games, missing 9 games. He's played 14 games, the last 13 games last year, 14 games the 2 years previous to that, been over 1,100 yards each year, double-digit touchdowns 2 of the 3 years. He is the prototypical top 10 player. Like, he is consistent. He's going to give you touchdowns. He gives you work out of the backfield. It's not to the Christian McCaffrey level. He'll never be the number 1 overall player. But to not have him in a top 10, in the top 10, what is the number 1 thing you look for in a top 10 when you're playing fantasy? Sure things. When you draft him, you're getting a sure thing. Dalvin Cook is that. That's the closest thing to a sure thing you can get.
Yeah, I want someone who catches balls, scores touchdowns, and runs well. I question the health. I always have with him. All right, you can bring up the 13 games, but I mean, there's certain points throughout the year where I've owned Dalvin Cook the last 3 years. Okay. And there's times where I'm sitting here and he's 7-5. I need to get over the hump. No, I'm out. Hamstring. I'm out.
So
Aaron, this is what's wrong with fantasy football players. This is the Todd Gurley argument. A guy will carry you all year, and then you're in the playoffs, and he has the bad, and he gets hurt or has the bad game and goes out, and you blame your whole season. Oh, well, he screwed me. I'll never be on my team again. Blah, 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 blah. He carried you to where you got.
So, Aaron, on this list too, are you're obviously high on Javonte Williams. Maybe you don't have him in the top 10. You would have Cook over Williams. Would you have Cook over Eckler?
Cook would be in my top 5.
Okay. Cook over Chubb?
Cook is over Chubb.
Cook over Derrick Henry?
Cook is they can be interchangeable.
That's the
They're
line.
right about the
Okay.
same. That is the
Cook
line.
over Najee Harris.
Yes.
Okay. And obviously over Aaron Jones and Austin
But
Eckler.
what I will tell you, there's some like, Austin Eckler should be higher. Again, Alvin Kamara is in that top 10. There's a lot
obviously
there,
a different list, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to gauge that line of where you have a Dalvin Cook on that list. Was there any other?
That man
just
would have James Cook over Najee Harris.
You guys did, and this is something I will bring up, and this will be the last thing before we move on to our fantasy hot questions, is you guys' assessment of RB1 and RB2 and handcuffs.
No,
and
I was
those
on
kind
point.
of things.
I was on point.
You were.
You always backtracked again.
Not until.
Yeah,
There was
you
no
backtracked.
until.
You backtracked again. Yes, you did.
No, I did. Where did I say
Yes,
it?
you did. You backtracked again. I will pull clips. You backtracked on every point you made. I was like, Dylan's killing it today. And then you would blow it up by talking too much and continue to talk and be like, well, the only concern would be, and you pull back your own argument.
If I remember correctly, it was an Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. It was one of those in your AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones point. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is that it's really to congratulate you and to talk about the good things that you said, that I want to reiterate to our listeners and viewers, is that with these RB1, like a Nick Chubb and a Kareem Hunt, I am totally on board. And you didn't say this, but I knew this was your point on Monday's show, was that you don't want to overload on the same team of a Nick Chubb and a Kareem Hunt. If you're getting Kareem Hunt's value is round 6, you're not go for the RB1 on another team in round 6 than going for an RB2 on the same team of the running back that you already have. That's where the point that the just nail on the head there was just missing on Monday's show, because it is true. There's too many times where we're like, okay, you're getting Kareem Hunt to handcuff Nick Chubb. He's not a handcuff. AJ Dillon, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is the line. They're not handcuffs. Those guys are standalone flex value players. So you're not drafting those guys to be handcuffs in round 7.
You can
8.
never get them. That the problem is the value you will never get, because if you take a Nick Chubb, you talked about taking Dalvin Cook and you're taking Alexander Madison in the 4th round. It's dumb because that 4th round value player is a startable piece all year. 5th round is going to be a startable piece all year.
Javonte freaking Williams last year. How'd that pan out?
He was a startable player.
At certain
he had flex appeal all year. The problem
flex appeal in the 5th round, I'd rather have Alexander Madison, knowing that I'm getting a running back 1, whether it's Cook or Madison.
For 4 games? For 4 games.
20 points for 3 weeks, I'm taking it.
That doesn't make any sense.
That is stupid. Because Javonte Williams could give you that 3 weeks and then some from the flex position. And you're not sitting there having to waste that 4th round pick. Like, you could never play Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook on the same day. Like, you could never do it. The only time you do that, the only time you take a Kareem Hunt and a Nick Chubb, an AJ Dillon and an Aaron Jones, is when the value for that 2nd tier player starts to drop. So if you get Aaron Jones in the 2nd round and AJ Dillon's still there in the 8th or 9th, take them. Boom. There you go. You can take them. Have no problem with it. But most of the time, it's not going to happen. So every week you're going to sit there and you're going to kill yourself saying, oh, I want to start them both because there's a chance he could have flex appeal. But then you're burned when Aaron Jones plays 70% of the snaps and AJ Dillon gets 3 carries for 9 yards, or vice versa. It's just not a strategy that I'm for. I think handcuffs are handcuffs. Alexander Madison's a handcuff. You take those guys late, but you don't take them in the 4th and 5th round.
No, here's what I'm thinking. I want to make this point, okay? There's a difference between a bell cow running back that's always on the field. I want that backup, especially with Dalvin Cook's injury history. I want that backup if it's a split backfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I don't question that as much because there's less injury risk with both players being on the field a lot. Dalvin Cook's getting the hammer. He's a 3-down back going off constantly. If he were to go down, you got the starter on that football team, and that team is going to produce a top 10 back.
And we talked about it before with your point that I was on board with, which you said is you're not drafting Nick Chubb and then in the same draft drafting Kareem Hunt because you're getting an RB1 and an RB2. But the thing is, though, is if you're drafting Alexander Mattison there, that's still you're drafting an RB2 or you're drafting an RB2 when you could be drafting an RB1.
I'm getting a bell cow running back as that whole entire team.
You may never.
Cool.
You could go through.
That means that Dalvin Cook did his job, and I got a top 5 running back in fantasy football.
What I'm saying though is you just said, and we just talked about, you're not drafting Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. You're like, that's not a thing. Like, you're not doing that in round 5.
Dalvin Cook goes down, Madison's projected 18 every single week he starts. That's to me.
If he goes down, but why not?
Dylan, but you're think about what you're doing when you're taking that value. You're taking a 20-point player, is what you're saying. No matter what, you get a 20-point player every week, and you're now substituting that for a 20-point player already, and Dalvin Cook, and a 13 to 14 point scorer every week in that 4th round for a 0-point player. So your only way to win in that situation is to your primary back go down. And guess what? I hate to tell you this, but if Dalvin Cook went down and you rely on Alexander Mattison, guess what happens? Last year happens. Week 16, 17, 18. Guess what the Minnesota running backs did? Nothing. And you still lose. That's what happens every time. You can't win when you take 2 players like that.
I don't know the future. Okay. I don't know the future. But when I say it's because he's never been healthy.
You kids and I sound like an old curmudgeon here.
Never been healthy.
You kids these days, and Bailey does the same thing.
Yeah, he misses
you guys
games.
all do the you guys all do the same thing. You guys talk in like such
absolutes.
Yeah, you guys talk in absolutes. It drives me bananas. Like when Dalvin Cook goes
he's
down,
missed 8 games in 3 years. Do you realize it's two games a year?
And he's missed them every year. So Madison's ready.
So you spend a 4th round pick for 2 or 3 games a year.
If I get a top 5 running back in that position,
you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
So you draft Dalvin Cook in the 1st round. Where are you drafting Alexander Madison? Where's the earliest you're drafting
him in round 5?
He's lying because he would not draft Alexander Madison in the 5th round, and I can guarantee that.
If I get Dalvin Cook in our league, I'm taking Madison.
Guarantee
it. Not to laugh at me.
So are you doing the same thing with? Are you doing the same thing with Zeke?
No, because Pollard still gets that run.
So
weird.
So are you saying this only applies to
bell
Dalvin
cow
Cook?
backs?
No, you're only saying what? Name one outside of Dalvin Cook. Who else does this apply to?
Who's the backup? There's a sure backup behind a bell cow.
I'm asking you right now. Every team in the NFL outside of Dalvin Cook, who else are you saying this applies to?
I don't see. Maybe Joe Mixon and who's that kid behind him? Chris Evans.
Samaje Perine.
Samaje Perine. That's another one.
Asinine. Nobody's drafted Samaje Perine in the 5th.
No, I'm not taking him in the 5th round because I've seen Madison take running back when he starts.
You're not listening to my point.
So let me ask you a question.
You're saying if a guy's hurt, you would do that. Outside of Dalvin Cook, who does that apply to? Because all the running backs you would even consider.
Anybody. Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams worked that way.
That's absolutely
because
there are guys that do not play.
Order in the court here. Order in the court. So you have Christian McCaffrey and no, thank you. You have Christian McCaffrey at number 1. Are you taking Dontrell Hilliard in the 5th round?
I don't know who it is.
Or Chuba Hubbard?
I don't know who it is. Is it Chuba Hubbard? See, you don't even know. If I know who the backup is, I'm doing it. If it's Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams, I know Fitzgerald Toussaint's not getting any carries.
This is where you're lying because you didn't do that for Le'Veon Bell because you were worried about injury. You did no, you're not listening. Jesus Christ, he's not. Did he really walk off the set?
He walked off.
He's not even. You didn't even listen. You didn't even listen. You did it because Le'Veon Bell was suspended, so you knew you were getting 4 games out of D'Angelo Williams. There's a big difference between assuming somebody's going to get hurt and saying, "I know I'm getting 4 games. I know I'm getting 6 games." You're assuming you're getting that. That's a huge difference.
Used to be that way when Melvin Gordon was there. When they had Danny Woodhead too.
But again, they had standalone value.
Alexander Madison or Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette. But that's who you're passing up on. That's who you're passing up on that.
Maybe it's not the 5th round. It's once you get to those potential number 2s in the 6th.
Oh my God!
No,
that's not the 6th round. You can get a starting running back in the 6th round. Your round you're talking about is the 8th, 9th round.
I'm looking at those guys that are like borderline.
Leonard Fournette last year went in the 8th round in our rough cut league.
Well, yeah, because it was the whole Tony, like
James Conner.
Ronald Jones.
James Conner went in the 11th round, although he was a name that we were like.
You can't look at that though. You got to look at guys that are going there. Guys that are going there now.
Yeah.
Because what happens is those were split.
I'd take him over Melvin Gordon. I'd take him over Josh Jacobs.
Oh, what the? You're insane.
You're
an absolute loser. You're a loser.
Over Josh Jacobs.
You're dumb.
No.
You're dumb.
Why?
What? How do you even consider that?
Josh Jacobs has an injury history. There's multiple backs there. It's a new head coach.
What multiple backs are you talking about? Broken leg.
Kenyon Drake still there?
Broken leg. Yep. Kenyon Drake. You do realize Josh Jacobs has been on RB1 in 12-team leagues for the past 2 seasons. And you're saying you would pass on that for a backup to play 3 games that Dalvin Cook has missed over the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, because I've gotten the shaft from Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Yeah, you're an idiot. Let's just end it there. You're an idiot.
So just for ADP purposes, Zeke is going with a 34th pick. Let's see. Would you take him over DK Metcalf? Would you take
you got to look at
for other running backs.
6th and 7th round. Any players? No, it doesn't even have to be a running back.
No,
that's why 7th round.
That's why I said like a DK Metcalf, who's 6th or 7th round is what? DK Metcalf is his ADP is the 45th player off the board.
High, bro. Go down.
That's in the 5th. That's like in the 5th round.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's if my 12-team league.
Yeah,
so
keep going.
12,
He's not taking him over DK.
I'm never taking DK Metcalf.
48.
Vinny,
48
keep going.
48 is the
okay. Keep going. He's not taking Alexander Madison over DK Metcalf. Nope.
Chris Godwin?
Nope.
No.
I'll answer for him. I can tell you.
Lamar Jackson?
I mean, no, don't name quarterbacks because that could be anything.
I'd take him over Lamar.
Don't name quarterbacks.
Okay. A shot on Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton with Russell Wilson?
Nope. I'm going Madison.
Brandon Cooks.
Dylan's an idiot.
Madison.
Yeah, you're dumb. Let's move on.
Okay.
It's
All
stupid.
Right,
it's stupid at this point.
Dylan,
this is why he finished last in our league.
I'm only doing it if I have Dalvin.
This is why he finished last in our league with people that didn't even play fantasy football before. We had hockey people in our league. Let's not forget.
Bailey won the league. That's how bad it was. That's how bad. Your
we don't
twin
care about that.
won the league.
We're talking about who was last place, and it was this guy right here, this clown, right?
That is accurate.
Right.
I'm waiting.
Can't even point right in this. Yeah, this guy. This guy. All right.
Hong Kong clown. Dylan, save yourself though. I'm gonna give you the chance to feed the ducks and tell the beautiful people at home where they can follow us at.
Yeah. Check us out. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Sac City Pod. Be sure to head on over to all the social media places. You can catch up with us. You can get the news. You can get the clipped shows, which are on YouTube, by the way, if you follow that Sac City Pod. You can also get them on Twitter whenever they're uploaded onto YouTube. You'll be able to just click the button to the link. You'll get a little teaser of what's been said in that episode, and you'll be able to just watch the video. Facebook has everything. Instagram has beautiful graphics created by Mr. Vinny. And be sure to check us out at Sac City Pod on all 5 locations. Because as AJ always says, the boys are back in town.
Well done.
I hope Dylan gets Dalvin Cook. And then he drafts Alexander Madison, and then Tyson Chandler's the one that ends up being the backup.
That'd be funny. I do. You know what else I find it funny is Dylan has now taken over our Twitter. Dylan is the main guy who's running our Twitter page, and it's fun now to see like Dylan go into the specifics on what our Twitter content is because you are the one running it. And Aaron, you do the same when you run the TikTok, and then I do the same because of Instagram. It's just very funny that we go into we all like you specify promoting TikTok, you specify promoting Twitter, I specify promoting Instagram. It's just I love it. I love it. All of our social pages, though, are great. You want to follow us at Sac City Pod. And be sure to tell a friend. If you're listening to us on a podcasting platform, drop a review. Let us know what you think of the show. All right. Let's get into these burning questions for the 2022 fantasy season. Basically, the line starts off with you must blank. And I'm going to give you guys a player, and you guys have to tell me what you guys must do with said player for the season. Make sense? Great. Aaron, I'm giving you a dynasty question first because Friday we're going to actually go into our dynasty mock draft. Travis Kelsey, this is dynasty specific. What must you do with Travis Kelsey? Now, I know you're shaking your head, and I'm going to specify about this. I'm going to really get into this because there are people out there wondering what to do with Travis Kelsey, whether they need to in a dynasty league. He's getting older. He might be the number one guy in Kansas City, so maybe he can't handle that load. Maybe he's going to be 1 year, and then they're going to see regression. People are worried about Travis Kelsey and the regression, and when you sell high before getting burnt. So answer that question, basically. When do you sell high on a Travis Kelsey, or do you just ride this ship on him until it crashes and you go down with the ship?
I'm going to give you my answer in numeric form. With Travis Kelsey, 9, 9.
I don't need
1,
no.
1,
That's not what I'm
1,
saying.
1,
No.
1, 2.
He's
Let
great.
me finish. No. You
No,
asked your damn question. Let me
did
finish.
Not, no,
Let the man
no.
speak, Vinny. You
Let
asked
me
the question.
finish.
You teased him. He's
Let me
answering with
finish.
Roman numerals.
I'm answering the question. 9, 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. You do nothing. You do nothing with the great tight end that is Travis Kelsey. He stays on your roster until 1, he retires, or until 2, he can't move anymore. You're not this. To all the dynasty players out there, just because a player turns a certain age doesn't mean you have to get rid of them. Yes. Is it better to get rid of a player before the decline happens? Absolutely. But tell that to the Tom Brady owners from 6 years ago. Tell that to the owners of guys that we've seen go past their prime. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, he's 32, he's going to decline. Travis Kelsey has been the top tight end in football since 2014. You're not doing anything with him. He's staying on your roster. When he starts to show that he's declining, then we can have that conversation. But until that happens, we're not having that conversation. I'm not going to sit on this show and allow the blasphemy in my best Stephen A. impression to come out of your mouth talking about any notion that we should move on from Travis Kelsey in Dynasty.
So the caliber of player that Travis Kelsey is a player that you go down with the ship no matter what. Okay. Like if and when that day comes, you go, well, Dylan, you're the future teller. You'd be able to tell me if it
you just don't, you're not going to fall off a cliff. Like most players don't fall off a cliff. Most players don't go from the best to, oh my God, you can't even put them on a roster. Right. So when you start to see a decline, then those conversations can be had. But I'm sorry. Have you seen a decline from Travis Kelsey? He is a tight end who is always the best tight end damn near. And every year he produces like a wide receiver 1. There's no decline, then I'm not doing anything with him.
Are you, and I'll send this question to Dylan here on Travis Kelsey, more of a redraft point of view. Do you draft Travis Kelsey in round 1? 12-team league. Do you draft Travis Kelsey in that round 1?
Depends on where in round 1. Where am I picking?
Is he a top 12 pick, Dylan? That's the question.
He's a top 12 pick. He has been
for
top
quite
10?
Some time. Is he a top 10 pick?
10 pick. He's a first rounder in the 10 round.
Good. I wanted to see where you're at with that. Okay, good. Okay, so Travis Kelsey, Dynasty, that we're moving on. Dylan, I will give you a different player, though. We talked about him on Friday's show. You said he's done. Ezekiel Elliott. What are you doing with Ezekiel Elliott? What must
redraft
you do with this? Yeah, redraft.
Redraft. This has been my philosophy for years now, ever since I got burned 1 year, and it's going to stay the same. It might be unpopular. I'm avoiding a Mike McCarthy running back. I don't care. I don't care what Zeke Elliott did. If Aaron, he's searching his phone, he's pulling up his notes. It says 1,010, 1,010. Oh God, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. Oh God. But I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, man. I mean, I know he's not going to be the guy that you're getting in the first round. This is going to be a 3rd round, 4th round pick this year, which is all right value, I'd say, for Ezekiel Elliott. But he's getting older. The way that they share the football in Dallas always makes me concerned. The way that just Mike McCarthy's been doing business. It went back to the Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones things. He loved Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones barely saw the football field when he was there. And I question that a little bit. And I don't care how good of a running back he is. I don't care if he gets his touchdowns. I'm just avoiding that situation entirely.
I don't know how to have this argument anymore. It doesn't make any sense to say you're avoiding a player that produces at top 10 at the position is just a stupid and it's asinine. You don't go into a fantasy football season and say, you know what? I know this guy's going to be top 10 at the end of the season in fantasy football because he's done it every year since he's been in the league, but I'm not going to draft him. I don't care if he's in the 3rd, 4th round. I'm just going to leave him alone because I know he's going to finish in top 10, but because he burned me when I drafted him number 2 overall, I don't want to draft him. That's a stupid strategy. It doesn't work. It's not how you play fantasy football. Fantasy football is about value. If you're asking me, do I draft Zeke in the top 10? No, I'm on board with that. He's not a top 10 guy anymore. So I'm not taking him in the 1st round. I'm not taking him probably in the 2nd round, maybe late 2nd round. 3rd round's probably about where he needs to go. But guess what? He's going to turn back 3rd round value because you know what's going to happen? He's going to play 16, 17 games. He's going to get 1,000 yards. He's going to score his touchdowns. Everybody acts like Tony Pollard has taken so much work away from Zeke. Tony Pollard had 130 carries. Zeke had 250 almost. Like, what do you want? What more do you want? And that's on an injured knee. And we could talk about, oh, well, everybody's injured, but not everybody's playing injured. Ezekiel Elliott is 1,000-yard back every season, usually puts up double-digit touchdowns. What else do you want from a fantasy player you're getting in the 3rd and 4th round? So yeah, if you're telling me if you're asking me what to do in redraft, you take Zeke at the value he's been going now. If he is sitting there and you're in your 3rd round pick and he's on the board and maybe you did the no running back strategy, you're taking Zeke. Maybe you took a Christian McCaffrey early and now he's there late or whatever, you're taking Zeke. And if you're not and you're passing on him for somebody else that has bigger question marks, I guarantee it, you're probably making a mistake. Because there's one thing I know about Zeke. He's going to play. And at the running back position, it's far more important than anything else. He is going to play. One more point before you go, Vinny. You talked about the weapons. No more Amari Cooper. We don't know what Dalton Schultz is. Michael Gallup is coming off of an injury. They have CeeDee Lamb. Let's stop with this Dallas Cowboys have weapons all over the field thing. Okay? They have CeeDee Lamb right now. That's it. We haven't seen it. And Michael Gallup, we don't know when he's going to be back. Jalen Tolbert's a rookie. Dalton Schultz is a nice piece, but let's stop with they have so many guys. They spread it around. They got all these weapons. No, they don't. They have CeeDee Lamb, and he had drop issues last year. So let's stop acting like the Dallas Cowboys have a ton of weapons. They don't.
So I wanted to look this up because I don't know if Dylan did the research on this. But the last time you made a very interesting point talking about Mike McCarthy and his prior history with running backs. And I wanted to see when the last time outside of Ezekiel Elliott, who obviously just had 1,000 yards this past season with he hit what was his total?
I know the answer, Vinny. It's Eddie Lacy in 2015.
It was 2014 Eddie Lacy. 2014 Eddie Lacy. So
is there a point in there though?
No, I'm just
before he got fat. Zeke's getting fat now.
I'm kind of interested to see if that's where Dylan, if that's the route that Dylan was taking, because you can.
It's so funny.
With certain arguments,
Mike McCarthy doesn't even call the plays in Dallas. He doesn't call the plays. So every time you bring that up, it just baffles my mind. He doesn't call the plays. And you're talking about the years of Aaron Jones when he was a rookie in his second year in the league, when they were still trying to get him up to speed. And after that, then he was gone. Like Mike McCarthy was fired after that.
The dude was a beast.
you act like these guys come in every time as a rookie and just sprout. Aaron Jones was a 6th-round pick. He wasn't some touted 1st-round pick that Mike McCarthy didn't give the ball to. He was a 6th-round pick who had to make his way on the roster, earn a job, and then you wanted him to get the full bulk of carries right away. Like, what? That doesn't even make
James Robinson. He was undrafted. They cut Fournette for him.
Kellen Moore, if you're going that route, Kellen Moore's first 2 years as offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys were Ezekiel Elliott's blow-up years of 14 and 1,300 yards. So I don't know if that Aaron, you brought up the fact that the play calling.
Wait. Say that again? Say that again?
The first years of Kellen Moore being the offensive coordinator, or the
play caller.
The play caller of the Dallas Cowboys, he had 14 and 1,300 yards.
Well, to be fair,
really?
I mean,
the
Zeke
quarterback on teams.
Was he the quarterback coach?
He was calling
quarterback.
I thought
Scott Linehan was there. Scott Linehan was there during that time.
Okay, got it. Okay, so disregard anything I said, and my research is now irrelevant.
This is not different than any other team that has a quarterback that's young, like Dak Prescott was, ran the ball early in their career, and then became a throwing offense. That's really the point here. Every team does this that has a young quarterback that they think is a franchise guy. We saw it in Seattle. They stopped running the ball with Marshawn Lynch in that running game, and it turned into Russell Wilson's team. This is not shocking. This is a scheme thing. This is not a Zeke thing. This is a scheme thing. The fact of the matter is yes, is Zeke 24 again, 22? Is he going to run like that? No. But when you watch Zeke run the football when healthy, he is still an effective back. He is still one of the better in between the tackle runners. And when he's around the goal line, he gets in the end zone. He's always reliable. And again, at the running back position in fantasy football, which guys like Dylan are like, man, guys are missing games and all this stuff. You can't talk out of that side of your mouth and say that. And then on the other end, say you don't want Zeke, who plays every single game. That is just, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, and then you can't win at all.
So let's play that game again of would you rather set a running back over Ezekiel Elliott based on ADP for this year, Ezekiel Elliott or Josh Jacobs, Dylan? I know you just said you didn't. Okay,
I'm not taking Josh Jacobs. He can piss right off.
Ezekiel Elliott or
there's no running backs.
Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Gibson, and he's got an N next to my name on the next one.
Okay. That's the one I was going to go to next. So we'll talk about him in just a moment. Ezekiel Elliott or Cam Akers?
Cam Akers.
Ezekiel Elliott or someone we might talk about later, Elijah Mitchell?
Elliott.
Okay. So you're pretty much right around.
J.K. Dobbins. He just picks and chooses who he wants.
I mean, all these guys, those are bad backs right there.
And guess what? All the guys that you would pick over Zeke have no track record, have been hurt, and yet you bring up
Javonte's ADP. I'd reach on him before any of them.
Well, that's not a reach. Javonte Williams' ADP is the 15th player off the board.
Oof.
Javonte, Steve, did you put him in the top 10?
He is the top 10 running back. That's very.
No, you put him in your top 10.
Javonte Williams right now, he is being taken as the RB8. Ahead of DeAndre Swift, ahead of Nick Chubb, ahead of Alvin Kamara.
That's the one name that people have wrong. Like DeAndre Swift should be higher.
Kamara
should definitely be higher.
Okay. So let's continue playing this game here and bringing up names, and I'll go to you next, Aaron, on a dynasty question, and then I'll finish off with you, Dylan, and I'll end up giving you Antonio Gibson. So, Terry McLaurin, Aaron. Dynasty for Terry McLaurin, a guy that we're seeing all these wide receivers get paid. Cooper Kupp, we talked about earlier, getting the bag. A.J. Brown was another one of those guys. DK Metcalf's looking for his. Deebo Samuel's looking for his. Really, I'm talking about those wide receivers who do not have a payday yet, and specifically Terry McLaurin, who has not gotten an extension on a team with uncertainty at the quarterback position, but he still ends up finding ways to produce. So in a dynasty league, if you are a Terry McLaurin owner, what are you doing with him? Are you looking to trade him? Are you comfortable with Terry McLaurin and his up in the air contract status on a team with Carson Wentz or possibly Sam Howell or Taylor Heineke?
I don't think the contract status matters, and I don't think the team that he plays for matters. If I have Terry McLaurin, I'm selling. And the reason I'm selling is because despite him having, adequate seasons, his name value is super high for whatever reason. People like him. And it doesn't matter where he's at. I think he's about what he is. I think he has the talent to be an excellent receiver, but he's probably a wide receiver too in best case scenario. I don't ever see him getting to the top 10 wide receivers. It's over 3 seasons. He's been at best wide receiver 20. I mean, and we said he's had good years. So you give him a better quarterback, you put him maybe in a better situation, but he's probably going to be seeing less targets in an offense where maybe there's another weapon. I think he's been the only offensive threat really for them out on the outside, and he's produced. He's done a really good job. If he's on your team, I'm not mad at it, but if I'm him, I think his name value actually has a lot more steam to it than where he's going to return, just because for whatever reason, people like to see that. They like to see a guy who's produced with no quarterback, no team, and perhaps being able to go somewhere else and produce. I would sell him because I think you can get a pretty good return for him.
Is this the best?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dylan. I was going to ask, is this the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin has had? It's Carson Wentz, Case Keenum, Colt McCoy.
I mean, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz. Is there a real difference?
No, that's what that's what I'm saying. I think the biggest thing is it's not even, you can focus on, and we do this with wide receivers, obviously you focus on who's throwing them the ball, but you also have to look in, this is the best wide receiver 2 that Terry McLaurin has had on the opposite side. Well, we don't necessarily know what Jahan Dotson's going to be, but I'm very high on him. So in my opinion, I think this is the best wide receiver 2 he's had lined up on the other side of him to possibly take away targets. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, but it's not just him either. It's Antonio Gibson, it's J.D. McKissick, it's Curtis Samuel being healthy. Like, it's Brian Robinson now being in the backfield. Like, not that he's going to catch anything, but he'll, whatever. I don't buy so much into that. I think Terry McLaurin will be Terry McLaurin. He'll be a wide receiver 2, and he'll be good.
Okay, Dylan.
What if, this is what ifs. You got to play into dynasty world here. This guy goes to Green Bay and whenever his contract's up. I mean, that'd be pretty sexy.
God.
I mean, you
say that, but you say that. But what happens if Christian Watson or somebody else comes out and has a good year this year? When have we ever seen the wide receiver 2 in Green Bay be any good?
When have we seen the wide receiver 2 in Green Bay been any good?
Yeah, recently, since Javonte Adams has been the one. Okay, but also you have to take into account how long is Aaron Rodgers there. You're talking dynasty. Aaron Rodgers for 1 year. You're not going to buy that.
All right, maybe Justin Fields has a good year. They go to Chicago. Houston.
When we look at this, though, Dylan, you just said it perfectly. In dynasty world, you kind of do have to play with the what ifs. Yeah. And if Terry McLaurin doesn't have a deal now, and we see the state of the franchise of Washington.
Exactly.
There is that possibility where Terry McLaurin might not even want to return to Washington. And obviously,
you can't play what if in dynasty. You can't play what if.
Enlighten me.
What if?
If I'm a new dynasty,
what if
you don't think of contracts and stuff when you're getting these players.
Okay, so Terry McLaurin leaves, and now he's a free agent. Or if you want to talk what ifs, he's not signing at the end of the year. The what if is Washington's not letting him walk out the door, so they'll franchise tag him. He becomes Allen Robinson. Now he becomes disgruntled. So now you're like, does he play under the franchise tag? And guess what happens? If he does play next year, they can franchise him again. That's how the NFL works. You can assume he leaves. Let's say he does walk out the door. You just mentioned it. He goes to Houston for more money. He goes to Justin Fields in Chicago for more money.
It's a Kenny Galladay all over again.
Are you telling me you're so much more excited with Terry McLaurin going to Justin Fields playing in Chicago?
I think
in over being on Washington? No, you're not. It's the same situation.
I think with this though, and I'm not arguing with you here. I'm just playing the game of what ifs because I personally, I've only been in one dynasty league. So I am a newer person to the dynasty world. So when if I had Terry McLaurin and if I was in that situation, I would be holding on to him only because I am hopeful that he does end up in a better situation. But I know in the back of my head, I've seen the quarterbacks that he's played with and performed well with to say, okay, I'm okay holding on to Terry McLaurin because I know even in the shittiest situation, the likelihood of him playing well is
Let me ask you
good.
a question. Where do you have Terry McLaurin amongst wide receivers? Like just average ballpark ranking.
I have him as a wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver too. I have him up there with like you talk about like guys like I'd say I'd have Chris Godwin ahead of him, but not far ahead of him. I'd say that's kind of the line. I think that if that gives you a good gauge, I'd say him and Chris Godwin are right there.
So right now, if somebody right now gave you Chris Godwin for Terry McLaurin, you taking it?
No.
You're keeping Terry McLaurin.
I am because I know Tom Brady is the ageless wonder.
T. Higgins or Terry McLaurin?
T. Higgins. Because he has Joe. I know that quarterback situation.
Okay, so my point being is right now I would venture to guess T. Higgins is probably ranked below Terry McLaurin. I don't know for sure. But if you get that trade offer, you're not turning that down. You're probably taking T. Higgins. And guess what T. Higgins' upside really is? Probably a wide receiver too. With Jamar Chase there.
Yep.
And that's what you're saying Terry McLaurin is. So it's his name value will get you a return in which his production will never get you. I guess that's my point. Is he's put up wide receiver 2 numbers. That's probably what it is. You could probably get more in return. And that's really what Dynasty is about. It's about value and getting the right value to move forward. If you can get a player and say a 3rd-round draft pick with that or a 2nd-round draft pick.
Let's look at it as someone in the same exact situation. DK Metcalf. Which would you rather have, DK or Terry McLaurin?
Terry McLaurin.
DK. Easy.
Terry McLaurin every day of the week.
Easy.
You want to know why? Because DK Metcalf's upside is top 5. Terry McLaurin's is not. And in Dynasty, that's what you're looking for. If you say what if, imagine if DK Metcalf goes and plays with Aaron Rodgers.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me, and again, not arguing here, just trying to get answers. If you see, we've seen Terry McLaurin play well with bad quarterbacks. You don't know what his ceiling could be with a good quarterback, but we've seen DK Metcalf with a good quarterback in Russell Wilson. That ceiling has come with a top quarterback in Russell Wilson.
We haven't seen DK Metcalf's ceiling.
Yeah, he's got Lockett. I'd like to see him.
You haven't seen DK Metcalf's ceiling. You've seen DK Metcalf play great, but you think top 7 is not DK Metcalf's ceiling. If DK Metcalf was on a team that, like, give him Aaron Rodgers, you're going to see a top 5 receiver. Give him Patrick Mahomes, you're going to see a top 5 receiver. So Terry McLaurin's ceiling is the talent is not equivalent. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So when you talk about upside, you're looking at talent along with situation. Yes, Terry McLaurin has not had a great situation. DK has had a better situation with Russell Wilson. But if I'm playing the what if game, my what if for DK Metcalf, I know could be top 5. And I've already seen him, mind you, last year DK Metcalf in a bad season was wide receiver 14. Terry McLaurin's never been better than wide receiver 20. That tells me all I need to know.
Okay. Fair enough.
The best play of DK Metcalf's career was the tackle.
Jesus. All right, let's finish it off. I promised I'd give this one to you, Dylan, and we're going to go that route. Terry McLaurin's teammate, Antonio Gibson. What are you doing with Antonio Gibson? You must what?
I must not draft Antonio Gibson. That guy was very hyped by our panel and many others in the fantasy football community, saying that this guy would just breakout year. McKissick's roles disappearing for some reason. I was always big on McKissick. His role stayed consistent. But, I mean, it's just he battled some injuries last year. They bring in a Brian Robinson. You still have Jared Patterson in that backfield. McKissick's still not going nowhere. I question that. I do. I think there's right when you think that it's going to be all right, it gets to where it's not all right. I saw a similar situation. Now the production wasn't there. Devin Singletary was good year 1 in Buffalo. They bring in Zach Moss. I think that's what you could see here. Antonio Gibson good in year 1. Then they bring in Brian Robinson, sort of buzzkill, if you will. He had an opportunity to take over that backfield. He couldn't do it last year, so I'm not drafting him.
So obviously, like some people do, hear that and think you're not drafting him at all. Like if he was in round 12, you're not drafting like that kind of
Dylan
stuff.
has no running backs on his
I know.
team based on the way he says.
Yeah. So
No,
let
I got
me
Cook
just
and Madison, and I'm never changing my RB1 spot.
What round would you draft Antonio Gibson right now? Right now he is the RB 18 in redraft leagues, and he is going in the 3rd round.
Ugh.
He's going right at the almost at the tail end of the 3rd. He's the 31st player in ADP right as of right now. I know we're still early in the redraft process, so all this is gonna probably change. But he is.
I wouldn't even say his name into consideration until it's late 5th.
Standard.
Yeah, he's higher than that. First
He's
of all,
actually standard. So hold on, let me see where
the way you're frowning, Dylan, is ridiculous.
He's only one spot. He's actually one spot lower in PPR.
This is always what baffles my mind. People do not understand the value of the running back position. Antonio Gibson, as bad as he's been, because we overhyped him. Yes, he was overdrafted last year. No doubt about it. He was overhyped. As bad as he's been, 12-team league, he's been a running back 1, and he's been a high running back 2, ranked 12th and 13th. In 2 seasons where he didn't have all the workload, had a bad season, got some injuries, didn't play that great, and yet the worst he's been is running back 13. Understand the value. If you're getting that in the 3rd round, you're taking it. Like if you're rejecting that,
make me say yuck. He's the one for me.
But you don't get if you play fantasy football with emotions. That's why you lose. You can't play with emotions. You got to play with value. It's all about numbers. Is he going to produce or is he not? If Antonio Gibson has the year he had last year, he had 795 yards.
Game log this shit.
11 touchdowns, and guess what? He finished as running back 13. Running back position is depleted.
It is, and that's what we're going to compare here now. So the running backs going around Antonio Gibson in a PPR league, you taking Antonio Gibson or James Conner, Aaron?
This year, I'm taking James Conner. I saw enough from him last, and that's a lot for me because I was dealing as James Conner, but the value says James Conner.
And this is redraft. Are you taking him, Antonio Gibson or Josh Jacobs?
Ooh, that's probably the line. They're pretty close to me, but I probably lean towards Antonio Gibson.
Are you taking the shot on Zeke or Antonio Gibson?
Zeke. It's not close.
Zeke.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins.
I like the upside of Dobbins. I would have to assume he's coming back healthy. So I would lean towards Dobbins because I think Dobbins is one of those sneaky, could be top 10 guys.
I agree. And I think, and to what Dylan was saying with and what you were saying was you have to take value in this and that. If I'm staring down, if ADP works itself out to look exactly like what it is right now, and I'm staring down those because Zeke, Jacobs, Montgomery, Dobbins are all ranked behind in ADP. They're all going behind Antonio Gibson according to the ADP. So it is one of those situations where I'm like, okay, I'd rather take a shot on Dobbins or someone or Montgomery or someone else over Antonio Gibson. But the last thing I want to ask about this all sums up with crowded backfields because we talked about Antonio Gibson and the
I think that's kind of misleading though. We assume Brian Robinson is going to get carries. Jared Patterson only.
Either way, no.
Because I hate when people do that. How many third string running backs get carries in the NFL, Dylan?
How do you know he's a third string running back?
Antonio Gibson is clearly the starter, and J.D. McKissic is clearly the passing down back. So where does Brian Robinson fit in there? He's the third running back. How many third running backs get touches in the NFL? Good luck. Thank you. That's my point.
No,
so we have to stop with this crowded backfield stuff. This is not a crowded backfield. It's Antonio Gibson and it's J.D. McKissic. Now, if Brian Robinson comes on, could he leapfrog somebody? I'm not saying he can't, but right now, there's 2 running backs there. We are assuming Brian Robinson is even a thing.
So
this is what we do when rookies are drafted.
He's going to get carries. You want an example? I'll throw it out there. Is the Raiders last year? Richard got some passing work. Not every time. He got some passing work.
Wasn't a rookie. Jalen Richard wasn't a rookie. He had been the passing down back in Oakland and Vegas for like 4 years.
He's not a rookie. I agree on that point.
So what are you talking about?
Okay, Frank Gore Devin Singletary. I mean, rookies do get their run sometimes.
Let me nip this in the bud. Let me just stop this here and ask the question I wanted to ask, and then we can wrap this show up. Crowded backfields, whether you look at it as there's 3-4 running backs, or even if it's 2 or 3, or 2 or potentially 3. You look at New England, that always is a crowded backfield. You got Miami, who is now has just all of the old running backs, or just RB2s there. You look at San Francisco, who has been known to have multiple running backs. Aaron, are you more comfortable with Antonio Gibson in that offense, or rank those crowded backfields? Whether you disagree or not, crowded backfields. New England, San Francisco, Washington, Miami. Rank those in terms of who you're most likely to draft, whether it's Damian Harris, Antonio Gibson, Chase Edmonds.
It's not close. It's Antonio Gibson, and then it's Elijah Mitchell. Like, I don't think those backfields are crowded like everybody's saying they are. I don't. I think the New England backfield is not even really that crowded, to be honest. I think it's 2 guys. It's Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. The only problem is they don't catch enough passes. Like, so it depletes their PPR. Miami's backfield, I just don't know who's going to start. If after 2 games, Chase Edmonds seeing 15 carries a game, then that backfield is no longer crowded. In the NFL, you just don't see teams that run 3 backs. Like, it's just not really a thing. I mean, there are every once in a while you can point out a New England where 1 game they might use their 3rd back, but it's not consistent. I don't think there's any doubt that Antonio Gibson is the day 1 starter for the Washington Commanders. Right. I think, does he hold on to that job? It might be an issue because he's fumbled, and then Jared Patterson comes in for the rest of the game. We've seen that. That's up to Antonio Gibson. But when I'm drafting, I'm not drafting for, oh my God, if this happens. Like, at his best, I have to assume these guys are healthy. At their best, I'm taking Antonio Gibson, and I don't think it's close in those situations.
Okay. All right. Well, that does it for another episode of the Sack City Podcast. We are going to wrap things up and look forward to another great show on Friday, live at 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We will be doing our Dynasty mock draft. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting show. You're not going to want to miss it. Woo. Dylan, you know what time it is.
Feed them ducks.
I'm going to crank it up. I'm going to bring old duckies in. I'm going to bring old baby hands in. Tell me they can follow us.
Yeah. At Sack City Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Be sure to check out all of the Sack City Podcast needs at all the various locations, all pointed to by Mr. Kenny Pickett with the baby hands. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Sack City Pod. Content coming every single day on these channels. Be sure to check out at Sack City Pod to see our beautiful faces and beautiful creative works, most made by Mr. Milani in the top left. But once again, AJ Johnson says the boys are back in town.
There you have it. We'll be back again live at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for Fun and Games Friday. Until then, for my best friend Aaron Mukes and for the smoothest voice in sports casting, Dylan Kearns, I am me. We will see you Friday.
Peace out.
Bye.
What?